They say if you want things done right, use an M16A3. Here are some of my thoughts on Hardline at the end of the beta. On a technical front, Hardline is working better than Battlefield 4. No missing or desynced audio. Thanks to a lengthy countdown timer, the game is now loaded when it starts. You're not trying to shoot invisible players or remember where invisible fences are so you can knife them and run through. I only lost my connection to the beta servers twice, once loading into a game and once between rounds. Not too bad for a beta. Death cams can be buggy. Sometimes it'll just show you a wall instead of your killer. Other times, the scene in your death cam will not render correctly. It is buggy. Something that had been fixed in Battlefield 4 but is present here is that it can take a while to load and ready your weapon when you spawn in. A game that's fast-paced, and you often find yourself spawning pretty much into gunfights, not knowing if you're going to spawn with a ready weapon or not can be concerning. It is rare, but in those situations where it happens and then matters, it is rage-inducing. Also, every once in a while the animations can do funny things. That's really not surprising, is it? You're watching 7th gen console footage. This is Xbox 360. I'm guessing the PlayStation 3 looks about the same. And I think we can expect an HD texture pack, just like we had for Battlefield 3 and 4, that will make a nice bump up in the texture quality with the final release. Hardline is much more focused on infantry gameplay compared to Battlefields 3 and 4. I like this change, but it's a personal opinion. Some may say that makes this not a true Battlefield game. I guess it doesn't have a number, but then a lot of true Battlefield games, it's hard to keep track of this. It clearly wears the Battlefield influence from its engine and game design on its sleeve, right there on the uniform in a big patch that you can unlock. And one of its defining features is doors. Doors that you can open and close. Lots of doors everywhere. Of course, the open door button is the same button as reload, is the same button as take health or ammo from a teammate or a space on the wall. There's drops around the map that you can pick up health and ammo from, and even defibs too in some places. But that means you will be opening and closing doors or reloading when you want to do one or the other. You just end up doing both. The activation range is limited. I don't know if you should extend it if it's directly in front of you. You can't hold down the action button, run up to the door, and have it open or close. I think this system needs some tweaking. Maybe better contextualization? Maybe moving the button? What if we moved it to melee, and unless there was an enemy next to you, you'd just work on opening the door? Or maybe if you held it down, you'd start to take out your melee weapon unless you ran into a door, and then you wouldn't, so you wouldn't have to swap back? I don't know, it's a tricky problem. Right now, it's too easy to be in the middle of a firefight, want to reload, and then close the door, locking yourself into a hallway. When you add in several other players trying to reload, pick up ammo, and open or close doors, it turns into a huge mess. Tiered reloads seem to have gone missing since they added them in Battlefield 4. If you stop the reload partway through, you'll have to restart all the way back over at the beginning, with ejecting the mag, putting the new one in, maybe working the action. And also, the reload animation doesn't quite seem to sync up with the timer, especially in the M16. That got me quite a few times. So it's back to paying special attention to the ammo counter during the reloads until I get the timing down. Audio seems very useful so far, especially listening out for enemy footsteps. It's not quite sound whoring on the level of Call of Duty where you're listening for the different sounds footsteps will make on different surfaces, but still it's really helpful in identifying where enemies are, especially when you're running around being super aggressive and you don't have teammates around to spot people or a hacker to put up a UAV thingy or whatever that's called. Oh, yeah, hacker. The idea is the same as the commander in Battlefield 4. You've got somebody who can supposedly give orders, if anybody would pay attention, to the different squads and put up different things in the map. So limited area UAV, counter UAV. Hardline has added security cameras that do something, and gas things that can automatically go off and confuse enemies. What is it? There are also the transformers that can do stuff, and I don't know, electrocute enemies? I haven't really figured out what's going on. It's really not much better than Commander mode in Battlefield 4. When you first start out as the hacker, your UAV and counter UAV, or whatever they're calling them, the radius is fairly small, and you can't have more than one, maybe two, I forget, up at a time. Anyway, you can't blanket the map with the stuff. But there are permanent unlocks you get with XP, basically requirements, or something else, and it upgrades your abilities. But Timu has a pretty good video out there showing how it might be possible to pretty much blanket all the important areas of the map with the UAV. Yeah, I don't need that. No, then you've got the rep perks, basically point streaks in a single life, work you up to the different tiers, and they're basic rewards like extra mags, extra grenades. When you die, you reset your progress, but you keep the reward you got. It seems pretty minor stuff for the most part. I mean, what are you going to do? An extra grenade? Grenades are powerful, but it's not going to swing the game. So I like it in that it really lets you keep going if you've been doing well, especially just extra mags. You don't have to find a support or an ammo cache in order to just keep shooting people. So it seems okay, fairly balanced, but it does contribute to the overall feeling that there is just so much stuff in this game. But that was a thing with Battlefield 4 too, wasn't it? It seemed like the developers couldn't turn down an idea. Everything they came across, they'd be like, oh, let's go ahead and put that in the game and see what happens. So especially with all the expansion packs or all these gadgets and guns, and it just became so unfocused, it was hard to really say what the game was going for. And if there was a problem with something, was it, what are they going to do about balance? Visceral has tried to pare things down a fair amount, but there's still a whole lot of stuff here. There are fewer guns, fewer gadgets, but there are still plenty. I know I didn't use more than half the guns in Battlefield 4, so that they've done that doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I think it's a good thing. For example, the Battle Pack system returns, except this time when you unlock an attachment for a weapon, it's a voucher and you can put it on the weapon you want rather than being for some weapon you never use. That's somewhat of a simplification, but then the boost system, there are all sorts of kinds of boosts now. I don't even want to deal with it, It's not worth it. I think I'll just play the game. As far as most unlocks go, you can buy with the in-game cash whenever you want, weapons and gadgets. Fantastic. But when it comes to unlocking the attachments, like barrels, grips, optics, then you need a certain number of kills in order to purchase those for your weapon. However, the unlock tokens, whatever from the battle packs, get you around that, so they're somewhat valuable in that sense. Then some of those are like 90 kills, but the real kick in the teeth is that weapons are only available for one faction until you unlock and then buy the weapon certification or whatever it is at 300 kills. That's right, if you've got a weapon you really like using as a cop, you can't use it as a robber until you've got 300 kills with it. Together, these mean that it just seems to make more sense to pick a weapon you like and stick with it unless you just really want to screw around. So they've added grinding, complexity, and possibly some benefits to players who are willing to put lots of hours in over the people who just started playing and are still trying to learn the game. But there is some good news regarding classes. You can edit your classes from the main menu. No more having to load into a game in order to edit them or go on battle log. You can also save multiple loadouts for each class so that you don't have to go around editing both the guns, gadgets, secondaries, and all that stuff when you want to change things up. But you still can't edit your class between rounds. You have to wait until the post-game is over and you're in the loading screen for the next round before you can change things up. Though fortunately, now that it's nice and long, giving things time to load, that's usually not so much of an issue. Something else you can do from the main menu now, this was patched in Battlefield 4 at some point I believe, is join a game with a squad of friends. 2, I think probably up to 5, and it will try to put you in a game where there's space for all of you on the same team, and then put you in the same squad. Fantastic, I know, why didn't Battlefield do this before? But the problem is that it will put you in a private squad with your friends, so if you join with just yourself and one other friend, which should be pretty common, you end up with a whole bunch of 2-person squads in a game, and if your friend leaves, then you're in a squad with 1 person. So you can end up with 12 players on a team and 6 squads. If you see a game with Foxtrot Squad, I suggest you just foxtrotting leave, because that game is foxtrotted. Of course, if the squads aren't private, you're still looking at squad hopping, usually between games and often in the middle of games, just to try and stay in squads that are at least somewhat full and somewhat active, and not sitting in the back of the map sniping. Some of us kind of like to be up in the action. As far as maps and modes go, it looks like we're only going to have 9 maps. Those better be some really good maps. I mean, I'm liking the bank job right now. I'm not quite so sure on Dust Bowl, and I'm really not sold on Downtown, but we'll see, we'll see. I'm also really liking the heist game mode so far. I've played a whole lot of it. Blood Money was in the first beta, didn't do a whole lot for me. I don't know. Hotwire can be a ton of fun, but I think it has enough systemic flaws still at this point that it either needs some serious work or it's not really going to stick around for very long. A couple other game modes are going to be Rescue and Crosshair. One of those is a squad-based game mode, which those can be a lot of fun, especially for competitive play, but given the very casual and public nature of general Battlefield, I don't really see how it's going to work. Just putting together a squad of 4 or 5 players and then getting into a match, if there's no way to make that easily happen for a casual group of friends looking to pick up a game, if you have to go to a website to set up a match and rent a server and all that stuff, no, it's not going to be a thing. And it's going to pretty much go the same way as Squad Rush in Battlefield 3 and whatever the squad mode in Battlefield 4 was. DICE may have finally fixed that properly, but it's still not a common thing for people to play. But here's the thing, it sounds like that's 2 of Hardline's game modes. There are no respawn 5v5s. Both Rescue, trying to rescue hostages, and Crosshair, trying to kill a VIP. Of course, it'll also have the standard Battlefield Conquest game mode, and Team Deathmatch, because of course. So right now, it sounds like Heist is going to be Hardline's big draw. So let's talk about guns. Right now, it seems like a lot of the guns have a bit more recoil than I'm used to in Battlefield 3 or 4, but perhaps more distinctively, up close especially, they do more damage, resulting in shorter times to kill. With 7th gen consoles running at only 30 frames per second and some questionable issues with the Frostbite engine, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I know Battlefield 4 had a whole bunch of problems. There are very legitimate concerns about how good the game feels when things are happening that fast. It's not just that weapons do a lot of damage up close, it's that the damage drops off very precipitously to its minimum in most cases, looking at the SimStick stats, so that you go from doing max damage to doing minimum damage fairly quickly. This is not the case in Battlefield 3 or 4. What this seems to do is differentiate the weapons in terms of what ranges they're best at quite a bit more than they had been in other Battlefield games. There seems to be a pretty clear progression of SMGs to assault rifles to DMRs to sniper rifles, all having their ranges pretty well staked out at which they do better than the other categories of weapons. Whereas in Battlefield 3 and 4, the PDWs, SMGs, and assault rifles would stack up pretty close at close ranges in a lot of cases. So if you were using a PDW, you'd have to rely on better handling, tighter hipfire spread, and not just faster DPS up close in order to win your gunfights. But it seems like in Hardline, SMGs have a shorter time to kill at close range compared to assault rifles. It's a little more COD-like, but I kind of like it. And that ends the more objective portion of this video. Let's get subjective. Did you buy it? Is it worth it? We don't know yet. It's not out yet. As a YouTuber, there's a temptation to go ahead and get the game, to make some videos, get some content out there, have a little fun. But would I just buy the game? I don't know. I really need to see more of what's in it. The single player, the shooting bits, what little I've seen in YouTube videos hasn't really interested me. Maybe as a stealth game? I don't know, that doesn't make sense either. I think the best call here is to wait several days after release, wait for the reviews, a bunch of videos, and a bunch of other people to try it first before I decide what I'm gonna do. But there's this weird thing where this game is right at the pace where the good old Call of Duty Modern Warfare's 1 and 2 were. And given how Call of Duty has gone the advanced warfare route with the zany exosuits, people bouncing around everywhere, there isn't really the tactical edge that it had at one point, and this may attract gamers that are looking for that. More infantry focused, but not just super fast people bouncing off walls everywhere. Hey, that can be fun, but you don't want it all the time, do you? But even just with the beta, I'm running into one of the problems that I had in Call of Duty after several years. And that is inflated expectations. A single kill really doesn't mean a whole lot. When I went through this looking for clips to put in this video, it was pretty much triples or more, preferably quads. And when I looked up my stats for the beta, they were notably better than I would expect for a Battlefield game, both in terms of KD and win-loss, from myself running solo. Maybe it's just the Call of Duty skills transferring over. Maybe it's just there are all these noobs because it's a free beta demo. Who knows, but my expectations got a little out of hand, and for a while I was looking for 30 plus kills as the cops in Heist. There are 12 players on my team and only 100 kills to go around. I had a 40 kill game. What on earth is going on here? I really do like being able to have an influence on the outcome of a game, it's why I like the lower player counts, but I'm not sure what to make of this. Like, I'm not trying to brag here, these are just better numbers that I'm used to being able to put up by myself. I'm sure there are lots of other people doing just as well, and plenty more doing even better. Is there a larger skill gap in Hardline? That might prove troublesome for the casual nature of the Battlefield series. Is my godly gigabit internet just giving me an advantage in the Frostbite engine? I'll note that I did turn my network interpolation or smoothing factor thing down all the way to 0. I really can't say, but as I noted earlier, I think this game strikes a really good balance between the a bit slower infantry and vehicle combat seen in typical Battlefield games, and the zany, crazy kill fest that Call of Duty has become ever since, well, I guess Black Ops 1 really started that off, didn't it? It has an enormous amount of potential. Will it actually realize that? I really don't know. I kind of don't think so, and that's disappointing. And while I probably won't pick up a next-gen console just for Hardline, there's a good chance it could be the first game I buy for my next-gen console. It sounds like Visceral is going to keep working on weapon balance between beta and release. That's good. There's some room for improvement there for sure. But a lot of the maps are pretty much set in stone, and I think that's what's going to determine how well this ends up doing. That is, unless they can somehow be convinced to add in proper multiplayer matchmaking. I mean, it is somewhat frightening to think what an organized squad who knows what they're doing and is working together could do in this game. I think you'd win, hands down, almost every time, very quickly. In fact, too quickly. A lot of heist games can be over in 2 minutes if the criminals are on top of things. I already did a video on the game modes available in the beta, Heist, Hotwire, and Conquest, from a perspective of someone who's playing it on 24-player servers, Xbox 360 and PS3. That might be of interest to you, it might not. I can only offer what experience I have with the game myself, though. I know a lot of commentators are already onto other systems, so maybe it's hard to find that kind of content. I would still put off getting this game on day one for most people, see what the reviews look like, see how the community does once they've got a hold of all of the maps and modes and everything, and see how things start to shake out. Give it several days, if not a couple weeks. At least with all the betas, we probably won't have to wait for them to figure out how to do matchmaking once the game launches. They'll probably have that in place and working, and we can start to see how things, in terms of gameplay, actually work. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.
Hey, medkit! Suspect taken out! We have a man down! I got him! There you go! Down on the ground, now!